Hey guys and fellow whiskey lovers, welcome to Malt Mariner's Whiskey Roads, and I'm back on the road and I am with
Ingjerd from Aurora Spirit Distillery and Bivrost Whisky.
And we are right now, where in the world?
We are at the world's northernmost distillery located beneath the Lygnen Alps in northern Norway. So we're about 2 hours outside of Tromsø.
And now we're gonna have a look around the distillery.
So yeah, we are the world's northernmost distillery. We are deep within the Arctic Circle. It is there's a lot of weather, there's a lot of winter up here, which of course affects how we make whiskey. Arctic single malt whiskey. Our maturation is a little bit slower, and we have a little bit less evaporation than you might see some other places. But we'll get more into the technical details, I think, as we go on our tour. But it's definitely an interesting place in the world to make whiskey. It comes with its own set of challenges and advantages.
Yeah, and I mean, for a visitor like me, coming from another part of the world, this is a stunning location. So
it's a beautiful view. It's not the worst office view, as I like to say. The climate and the scenery and the nature definitely affects what we do and how we do it. We have a lot of weather in northern Norway, and it is somewhat unpredictable. It was supposed to be sunny today from the morning. It was not. It was actually snowing. The weather changes quite rapidly. So in some aspects, we do have some similarities with Scotland in that way. Quick, rapid weather changes. But yeah, a lot of winter. It is middle of March now. I think most places in Europe we're solidly heading into spring, and we are having our first spring of many, but we're still expecting it to be winter until end of April at least. Welcome to Aurora Spirit.
wow, this is such a beautiful place. How about that for a view?
How about that for a view, eh? So right now we are in our visitor center, which is open not all days of the week, but throughout the year. And we receive our guests, we do tastings, and we have a little cafe that the local people like to come and use sometimes.
I would use that as a cafe if I was living here. I could see a lot of great whiskeys back there, not just from your distillery.
No, we are a whiskey distiller, but we also like to think of ourselves as a whiskey place, and it's been quite important for us to stock our whiskey with good stock our bar with good whiskey from all over the world. And we have quite a few of our Nordic colleagues here, but also interesting stuff from both Scotland and Asia as well. So it's starting to grow into quite the collection. But yeah, it's been very important for us that when people walk into the visitor center, and even though this started back before we had our own whiskey ready, that people walk in and feel like they're at a place that appreciates and recognizes good whiskey.
Okay, so for another part of the production, the mashing and the brewing, I am here with
Janis. I'm production manager, and we are just finished our brew. So mashing have been done in the morning.
Let us know a little bit about your process in terms of the mashing process. So
yes, that's our mash tun. So it's up to 4,000 liters. So we do the 550 kilos malt and 3,000 liters water.
How much wort will you get roughly from one mash?
2,600.
So what kind of malt are we looking at the moment?
At the moment it's peated malt from Scotland, from Chris Malt, and we still work with Marisotter also from Scotland, and then it's Norwegian Fruitopia from Bonsack, and then it's Arctic barley, the local malt from Denmark, tea. So and they do like they have a farm, and that they do malting there, grow the barley there. So it's pretty cool project with them. So barley and the malt and the brewing process is all correct, and then it's the fermentation when the yeast is added. So we use different yeasts. For the regular malts we use distillers and brewers yeast combination, which we get the good results and also some fruitiness from the brewers yeast. And then when we do our Arctic batches, that's with a quake, like a Norwegian farm old yeast. So we have done a lot of experiments with the different quakes, and we have ended up with the one with the most fruitiest, and we are super happy. So
the quake yeast is a yeast, a type of yeast that was grown on the Norwegian farms.
Yes,
okay.
Old farms, and they made a beer many years ago.
Okay.
So it still kept the character and
cool. Interesting.
Yes, it's very interesting, and it's more difficult to work with the quakes, but definitely more flavors, interesting flavors.
Yeah. How long is your average fermentation currently?
It's 5 to 7 days.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very long.
There is some 4 days, but we try. The goal is 5 at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
120 hours. 5 days? Yes, I think so, roughly.
Yeah, probably your mathematics are good, better than me. Yeah,
yeah, but that's a very long fermentation. Like in Scotland, they used to have like 48 to 60, 70 hours. So that's a very long fermentation.
Fermentation is usually done in 48 hours.
Yeah.
But from our experiments, every day increase the flavors more and more, and new make is more pleasant. So
cool. So you're still sort of experiencing and developing the quality of the new make even more. So you started out with a pretty good product, because the whiskey that I've tasted so far is between 4 and 6 years old, and it's already really good. But that basically means that your whiskey will get even better.
Yes, definitely. The potential is bigger, and we see that already from all our small experiments, and then we are done with almost most experiments. But yes, the future is great, because it's like it's just getting better and better.
Welcome to the still room. That's right. But yeah, Ingjerd is our combination still, Kute from Germany. And over time we also see that this is still, everyone in distillation knows that every still is unique. And it gives its own character, and what we see over time now, like regardless of which kind of malt we use or which kind of yeast we work with, there is sort of like an element of honey that goes through, like a red string through all our whiskeys. And one thing they all have in common is the still. So when we opened the distillery, we quickly realized that we are far from everything, and if people want to be able to proper taste our products, they couldn't drive afterwards. So they might need a place to stay for the night.
Yeah.
And so we also have accommodation now. We have 10 cabins with a seaside view, where our guests can stay and not just enjoy the whiskey, but also the beautiful scenery of the Arctic. So as you can see, up there is the distillery. And here right behind us are the cabins. So you really are simultaneously both close to nature, but also to the daily goings of distillery life.
Awesome.
Yeah. It is a little bit awesome in that there's not so many places where you can actually get to experience these kind of things.
Yeah.
next up, warehouse. And this is our, we call it the Viking warehouse. It's our main whiskey warehouse.
Oh yeah, warehouse baby.
This is our warehouse,
yes.
Our whiskey warehouse, one of a few. And this is obviously where the magic happens.
Yes.
This is where you mature the whiskey, where it gets to sit for many, many years to develop flavors.
Yeah.
And here at Aurora Spirit, we work with quite a few different types of casks. I think compared to a lot of other distilleries, people are quite surprised to see the range
yeah.
of casks we are operating with. And it's become part of our strategy and DNA, I'd say. Like looking back at the 9 World Series, for those who are familiar with that, we did a lot of experimentation, and people seem to really like it. And for us as well, it's really fun to see the different flavors and how our whiskey responds to different types of
yeah.
wood and different types of casks. And so we have a really varied warehouse. There's a lot of different things going on in here, and it makes for complex warehouse management, I gotta say.
Yeah.
But it also makes for a lot of really, really fun
yeah.
blending. We have a lot of flavors to pick and choose from.
Cool. Since I was here, I was really overwhelmed by the sheer amount of flavors that you create within your different yeast and different malts and different casks, and you have so many different varieties of recipes.
Yeah.
And it feels to me like an outsider for now that is part of your identity. So I think people
yes.
will probably be also quite interested in, so what's next? What's the next idea?
Yes, exactly.
So,
yeah. It wasn't originally, that wasn't our plan from the beginning, but as we started experimenting and playing around with different grains and different barleys and different casks, people responded to it really well.
Yeah.
And as you say, they come to expect what's the next thing you're doing.
Yeah.
And so that's one part of it, but also internally, we have a lot of fun
yeah.
with it, and we also see huge benefits as a young distillery to have a lot of variation in the warehouse. You can draw from different flavors and create very interesting blends, essentially. And so I think for the future, what people might expect more is like different types of wood, not just oak is something we're looking into.
Yeah.
We've been having quite a lot of fun with the Brazilian Amburana, which gives us this very, very characteristic flavor. But yeah, no, we have our core range, which will be sort of predictable in its own way. But then on this side, we have different limited series where we're definitely going to experiment more. And for now, it's been a lot of focus on casks, but I think over the next couple of years, you'll also see a wider range as our barley malt experiments and our yeast experiments starts coming through and are ready for bottling. But yeah, we've sort of ended up in this direction where we do a lot of different things, and it kind of works for us. And it's part of our growth and development, and the 9 World Series was such a crash course in this, and all the competence and the experience we got out from that, I think makes us really well suited for this kind of production as well.
Yeah.
But I think this is also something you can do as a small distillery.
Yes.
The more you scale up, the more difficult it's going to be, because the more complex your warehouse is, the more you got to manage it.
Of course.
And at our size, we can still do that. But I mean, if you're someone who's doing 100,000 plus liters per year, I'm not sure that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So I think it's our size is to our advantage in this aspect.
Yeah.
If you want to do super, super niche, interesting things, it is hard to scale that. That's just like the nature of cask management and purchasing and also budgets.
Yeah.
When you don't have unlimited budgets, you gotta be clever in the way you work with these things.
Yeah. So as you can see, I'm somebody who's not from the real north. Basically, I was born in the south of Germany. Now I moved to the north, and even that for me is challenging. And we are literally in the Arctic, if that's correct from saying the phrase.
Yeah, it's
so I'm tucked in quite happily here, but the warehouse is quite cold and the surroundings are quite cold. So how does that affect your whiskey and your maturation? Because we are in a warehouse and it's actually really cold in here.
We are in what would, I think, correctly be described as a subpolar region.
Yeah.
We do have a very cold average. We have some years our yearly average temperature is 1.5 Celsius. And so it is quite cold overall. And so the warehouse, of course, reflects that. A lot of people ask us, do you have temperature control in the warehouse? And no, we don't. But we have very thick wooden walls and we have insulation as well. And we got a turf roof to further insulate. And so we're basically insulating out the cold in the winter. And of course, in the summer, we're also insulating out a little bit of the heat. So it doesn't get too warm. And so what we have is a warehouse that is following a very sort of slow curve in terms of temperature development. You can see it almost like a perfect graph, right? And means the whiskey in here, it sees a slow and steady maturation, which is not a bad thing, it's just an expensive thing. Right? It's actually quite good for whiskey to see slow and steady, it just takes a little bit longer. But as you also have tasted, it's not necessarily noticeably slow.
Definitely not.
No. It's a lot of monitoring, it's a lot of keeping an eye on the warehouse and the different casks. And as a young distillery, we still don't know how our whiskey is at 10 years old, because we don't see that until the end of this year. The oldest casks, right? And so we don't know what our whiskey is going to be like. What is 20 years in this warehouse going to be like? We don't know. We have yet to find out. But the way there is really exciting, and I think that's also why we have sort of like done quite a bit of experimentation, because we don't know how things are going to play out. So we're putting our eggs in a few different baskets to see how is this going to turn out long term.
Of course. I mean, I'm super excited for all the magic you'll put in a bottle at a certain point, because everything I tried so far was like vastly individual and different and crazy good, the stuff that we tried in the warehouse before. This recording, so I might be a little bit not on point with some of my pronunciations, but it's really amazing to see the variety of the stuff you have in here. Wow, that is like super interesting, especially for whiskey geeks like me. I would also like really thank you now and here to have me here over and give me all the possibilities to sort of visit you guys and,
thank you for coming.
Show that place to the world, because this is like an absolutely amazing place to be, and I can only recommend everybody to come here and visit that, for like see this for yourself, because I think it's really hard to sort of really transport the feeling that you have being here on a picture or even a video. And hopefully you get the chance to try some of the whiskey and maybe even come here and see this great surroundings for yourself. Thank you very much for having me here. And
thank you, Leon.
I really hope that we'll see you guys on the road at a certain point, or you can come here. And that was really an amazing experience being here.
Thank you for making it all the way to the end of the world.
Worth it, I would say. See you next time and down the road.